I remember the exact second my world started cracking. It was a Wednesday morning, the kind that smelled faintly like cinnamon and distant storms. I stood in our kitchen in Ridgefield Grove, packing my suitcase for a trip I desperately needed. My mother wasn't well, and getting away, just for a few days, felt like air after months of walking on shards. My husband, Cole, thought the trip was selfish. He said I was running away from normal marriage chaos. I told him normal didn't look like this. We hadn't shared a quiet morning in weeks. Finances had become a battlefield. Mismatched receipts, missing money, arguments over expenses I never authorized. Still, I kept telling myself we'd find common ground. Every marriage had seasons, right? But that morning, before Faith could talk me into denial again, my 10-year-old son whispered something that split my world open. "Mommy," he said, his little hands clutching my sleeve, "Daddy has a lover, and when you travel, they are planning to take all your money." I froze inside, not dramatically, no gasping, no screaming, just a silence so complete that I could hear my heartbeat echo behind his words. "What did you say?" He looked guilty, afraid to repeat it. "I heard him on the phone," he whispered. "He said everything's ready once you leave." I laughed, instinctively, that brittle kind of laugh we use when the truth feels too dangerous to accept. "You probably misunderstood, honey. Adults say things you don't always mean the same way." But all day, his words replayed behind every sound, the clinking spoon, the phone ring, even the whistling kettle. And with each repetition, denial started to fracture. I should explain something. Cole and I weren't broken from the start. We built this life together brick by brick, two dreamers hustling through our early 30s, turning his contracting business and my accounting fame into something stable. For 10 years, we were the couple people looked to for advice, steady, warm, successful. Then, about 8 months before that whisper, things shifted. He met a client named Mara Lane, a real estate agent who oozed charm and confidence. At first, I admired her drive. She became a regular name in our house, first in business conversations, then in casual small talk, then in messages that arrived after midnight. I brushed it off as harmless collaboration until the little inconsistencies began. Bills charged to accounts I hadn't signed off on, new company emails under different domains, and subtle mood swings every time I asked basic questions. Cole's explanations were vague. "Babe, you always assume the worst. It's business. You're controlling everything again." Every answer sounded rehearsed. Still, I didn't connect the affair to our financial arguments, not yet. I thought our marriage was strained, not criminal. I never imagined my husband, the man I trusted with every password, every account, would use that trust to erase me from my own stability. That same evening, after Noah's whisper, I couldn't sleep. I told myself it was paranoia, that kids misunderstand adult things. But something felt wrong, like standing in a room where all the furniture had shifted 2 inches to the left. Everything looked normal, but nothing felt right. Around midnight, as I scrolled through emails on our shared tablet, a bank notification appeared. A scheduled withdrawal. $65,000. My stomach dropped. The label read, "Business payout, joint authorization." Our total joint savings, $6,000 to $7,000. It was set for 11:45 a.m. on the same Monday. I would have been 600 miles away at my mother's bedside. If he said as soon as she leaves, what happens the second I walk out? That moment, staring at that notification in the dark, felt like falling through ice. I sat there in bed, phone screen glowing against my face, reading the same line over and over. Business payout, joint authorization. Monday, 11:45 a.m. amount, $65,000. My hands started shaking. I didn't wake Cole. Instead, I walked quietly to the bathroom, closed the door, and sat on the edge of the tub, trying to breathe through the panic rising in my chest. This wasn't a mistake. This wasn't an oversight. This was planned. The timing wasn't random. The amount wasn't random. It was almost everything we had, everything I'd saved, everything I'd worked for, everything that kept our home stable and our son secure. And it was scheduled for the exact day I'd begun. I opened my banking app with trembling fingers and scrolled through recent activity. There were small withdrawals I didn't recognize, $200 here, for $150 there, labeled as business expenses or contractor payments. Nothing large enough to trigger alarm, but enough to add up over weeks. Then I saw it, a secondary email address listed under account notifications. Not mine. Not Cole's usual one. Someone else was getting alerts about our money. Fear turned into something colder, sharper. I screenshotted everything: the scheduled withdrawal, the unfamiliar email, the unexplained charges. My mind shifted from wife to accountant, from emotion to evidence. By the time I climbed back into bed, it was past 2 in the morning. Cole was snoring softly beside me, his face peaceful, relaxed. He looked like the man I married, the one who used to hold my hand during thunderstorms, who built Noah's treehouse by hand, who promised we'd grow old together. But promises don't mean much when someone's already planned your erasure. The next morning, Cole was in a good mood, too good. He brewed my coffee and smiled the way people smile when they are already 2 steps ahead in a secret plan. "I thought you could use a calm start," he said. Every nerve in my body screamed act normal. So I played along. I told him I rescheduled my trip for Monday because of weather concerns. He nodded, pretending to care. He probably took it as luck. That afternoon, I made a call to someone I hadn't spoken to in years, Harper Klein, an old college friend who now worked as a private financial investigator. I emailed her copies of the bank documents, and when we met for coffee the next day, she didn't mince words. "Lila," she said, leaning forward, her voice low, "this is an oversight. Someone's engineering your removal from your joint assets." "Can he do that?" "If he manipulated the signature card or your login credentials, yes, for now. But once you act, they'll lose access. You just have to outpace them." "How long until it's pulled?" She checked her watch. 3 days. 3 days. Those words weren't just a timeline. They were a countdown. That night, while Cole watched TV, I sat at my office desk pretending to organize tax files. Instead, I changed every password, set withdrawal alerts on each account, and made encrypted copies of every suspicious transaction detail. Harper helped me prepare a protective freeze and a flag request for the bank, effective midnight the next day. Before going to bed, I whispered to myself, if they think I'm leaving, I'll let them believe it. The house felt different now, every sound sharper, every glance heavier. I watched Cole move through rooms like a stranger wearing a familiar face. When he kissed my forehead goodnight, I felt nothing but calculation. Noah stayed unusually quiet. Once, he asked, "Are you mad at Daddy?" I smiled, brushing his hair back. "I'm just thinking, sweetheart." He laughed after saying it. That laugh broke something in me I didn't even know was still whole. I didn't confront him that night. I wanted to, but Harper's words echoed, "You need proof." Emotion could destroy evidence. So I made my move. Sunday morning, I told Cole I was flying out that evening instead of Monday. He lit up, almost too quickly. "Perfect timing," he said. He still thought I was leaving. Instead, that evening, I checked into a small motel 20 minutes away, directly across from Ridgefield First Bank. I wore neutral clothes, pulled my scarf high, and sat in my car facing the glass doors. At 11:56 a.m. the next morning, right on schedule, he arrived. Gray coat, gloves. Beside him, Mara, holding a folder. I called the banker, Pilar, the one Harper helped me coordinate with. "He's there," I whispered. "Now." She answered softly, "We're ready." Through the windshield, I watched them walk to the counter, their movements easy, practiced. Then Pilar appeared. She leaned over the counter, typed something, and called quietly for her supervisor. Cole gestured impatiently, flashing his ID. Mara smiled, tapping the folder. Moments later, Pilar spoke, her tone professional but sharp. "Mr. Harrow, may I reconfirm consent authorization? The file update from Friday contradicts your request." He frowned, confused. "My wife's away. She authorized it already. If my name's still primary, how did they plan to get past me?" That was my cue. I walked through those glass doors with a calm I didn't feel. "If he's authorized," I said, my voice louder than I expected, "let him prove it. Check the updated signature card." Mara's smile evaporated. Cole turned toward me, color draining from his face. The room fell silent. Pilar looked at the screen again. "System now shows Mrs. Harrow as primary authority. The attempted withdrawal triggers bank review." Security arrived moments later. Cole sputtered, "Lila, you don't understand. This is a misunderstanding." But I only said, "You almost made our son your accomplice." The silence that followed felt like standing in the wreckage of something that had been crumbling for months but finally collapsed all at once. Mara stepped back, folder still clutched to her chest. "I think there's been confusion," she said, her voice suddenly thin, professional armor cracking. "Cole said you'd approved." "I approved nothing," I said. "And you knew that." Security escorted them both to a private office while Pilar pulled me aside. Her expression wasn't sympathetic. It was clinical, efficient. "We'll need formal statements. There's protocol for suspected fraud." "How long has this been planned?" I asked. She hesitated. "Based on system logs? At least 6 weeks." 6 weeks. While I'd been packing lunches and paying bills and pretending we were just going through a rough patch, they'd been dismantling my financial life piece by piece. I sat in the bank's conference room for 2 hours, answering questions, signing affidavits, watching investigators pull up transaction histories I didn't know existed. Cole had opened a secondary business account under our joint LLC, listing himself as sole operator. He'd rerouted vendor payments through it, skimming margins I'd never see. Harper arrived halfway through. She didn't say much, just sat beside me, passing documents when asked, taking notes in her neat handwriting. When we finally left, the sun was already dipping low. I felt hollowed out, but not broken, just raw. "You did the hard part," Harper said as we stood by my car. "Now comes the cleanup." "What happens to him?" "That depends on how much he cooperates. If he admits everything, maybe reduced charges. If he fights it," she paused, "it gets messy." I nodded, staring at the bank's glass facade. "I cancelled my flight in silence," I said quietly. I didn't scream. I didn't warn him. I just moved. Harper smiled, small, tired. "Smart women don't announce their exits. They just disappear from the trap." That night, I picked Noe up from my neighbor's house. He looked worried, clutching his backpack straps. "Is Daddy okay?" he asked. I knelt down, meeting his eyes. "Daddy made some bad choices, but we're going to be okay." Did I get him in trouble? My heart cracked. "No, baby. You helped us. You told the truth when it mattered." He hugged me tight, and I realized he'd been carrying guilt he shouldn't have had to carry. I held him there on the porch, the cold air biting at our faces, and whispered, "You saved us." Back home, I set alerts on every account, initiated quiet freezes on credit lines, and changed every login password to something Cole couldn't guess. Harper had walked me through the steps, her voice steady over the phone. "Think of it like building a fortress backward. You're locking doors he didn't know you had keys to." Around midnight, my phone pinged. First blocked login attempt. Someone, probably Cole, had tried accessing our joint checking. The system flagged it, denied entry, and sent me a notification. I stayed at the screen, a strange thrill running through me. He thought distance would make me blind. He thought I'd be 600 miles away, unreachable, trusting. But I was right here, and I saw everything. 3 days. They think distance will make me blind. The next 48 hours were performance art. I cooked dinner. I kissed him goodbye before work. I laughed in the right places. I became invisible enough to be underestimated. Cole didn't know I'd been to the bank. He didn't know Pilar had flagged his accounts. He didn't know Harper had copied every suspicious transaction into an encrypted file marked evidence. Do not delete. He thought I was still packing, still planning, still oblivious. Tuesday evening, I made spaghetti, Noah's favorite. Cole sat at the table, scrolling through his phone, relaxed in a way that made my skin crawl. He smiled when I served his plate, said the sauce tasted good, asked Noah about school. It was almost convincing. After dinner, Noah asked me quietly, "Are we poor now?" The question stabbed through me. I set down the dish I was drying and turned to face him. "What makes you think that?" He shrugged, eyes down. "I heard Daddy say something about money problems, and you've been sad." I crouched beside him, wiping my hands on a towel. "We're not poor, sweetheart, but we have to be smart right now. That's different." "Will we have to move?" "No," I said, more firmly than I felt. "This is our home. Nobody's taking it." He nodded, but I saw the worry still sitting heavy in his eyes. 10 years old, and already learning that adults don't always tell the whole truth. Cole didn't hear that conversation. He was in the garage, door half closed, voice low. I shouldn't have listened, but I did. I cracked the laundry room door just enough to catch fragments. Monday noon. Everything's aligned. Pause. She'll be gone by then. I already checked her flight. Another pause. Longer. Mara, relax. It's locked in. She has no idea. That laugh again. Casual, dismissive. Like I was a problem already solved. I closed the door silently and walked back to the kitchen, hands steady even though my pulse wasn't. Harper had been right. He wasn't just stealing money. He was erasing me. Wednesday morning, I made my move. "Cole," I said over breakfast, pouring coffee like it was any other day, "I'm leaving tonight instead of Friday." He looked up, surprise flashing across his face before he smoothed it away. "Tonight? Why?" "Mom's getting worse. I need to be there sooner." He set his mug down slowly. Yeah, okay. Makes sense." But I saw it, the relief, the barely hidden smile, the way his shoulders loosened. He thought I'd just handed him the keys. "I'll be back Sunday," I added. "Maybe Monday, depending." "Take your time," he said. "Too quickly. We'll be fine." I smiled. "I know you will." That evening, I packed a small bag, kissed Noah goodbye, and told him I'd call every night. He hugged me tight, whispering, "Be safe, Mommy." Cole walked me to the door, kissed my forehead, said all the right words. "Drive safe. Call when you land." I nodded, pulled my coat tight, and walked to the car. But I didn't drive to the airport. I drove 20 minutes east, checked into a small motel with a view of Ridgefield First Bank, and texted Harper, "I'm in position." She replied immediately, "Pilar's ready. Monday, 11:56. Don't be late." I sat in that motel room, curtains half drawn, watching headlights pass on the highway below. My phone stayed silent. No calls from Cole. No texts asking if I'd landed. He thought I was gone. And that's exactly what I needed him to think. If noon is their hour, mine starts at 11:56. Sunday morning, I met Pilar at a coffee shop 2 blocks from the bank. She slid a folder across the table, her expression tight. "You need to see this." Inside were photocopies of signature cards, documents I'd supposedly signed months ago, authorizing Cole as co-administrator on accounts I thought were solely mine. Except the signatures weren't mine. They were close, same slant, same loops, but the pressure was wrong. The tail on my curved too sharply. The cross on my T sat too high. "Someone practiced," I said quietly. Pilar nodded. "We pulled the originals. They were submitted in person, but the system flagged them during a routine audit last week. That's when I started looking deeper." Why didn't anyone tell me? Bank policy. We investigate first, notify after. But when you called Friday, she paused. I escalated it. I stayed at the signatures, my stomach twisting. What else did they change? She pulled out another document. Address update. Filed 3 weeks ago. All statements for your business account were rerouted to a suite in Fairmont Plaza. I've never been to Fairmont Plaza. I know. The weight of it settled over me like cold water. This wasn't just theft. It was identity erasure. They'd been rewriting my financial existence, one forged signature at a time. How far back does this go? I asked. Hard to say, but based on login records, someone accessed your accounts from an unfamiliar IP at least a dozen times over the past 2 months. I took screenshots of everything. The forged signatures, the address changes, the login timestamps. Harper had taught me to build evidence bags, to think like an investigator instead of a victim. If they touched my signature card once, I said slowly, what else did my ID open? Pilar's expression darkened. That's what we're trying to find out. But Lila, she leaned forward, you need to be prepared. If they've been this methodical, there's probably more. I spent the rest of Sunday combing through records Harper had pulled, credit reports, business filings, loan applications. And there it was, buried in a subsidiary LLC filing, a business loan in my name, co-signed by Cole, for $120,000. I'd never applied for a loan. Harper called that evening, her voice clipped. The loan was approved 6 days ago. Funds disbursed to an account under Mara Lane's real estate firm. Can we stop it? Not if it's already been moved. But we can freeze her accounts and file for restitution. It'll take time. How much time? Months. Maybe longer. I sat on the edge of the motel bed, staring at the numbers on my screen. They'd stolen more than money. They'd stolen my name, my credit, my future. But they hadn't stolen my will. Monday morning, I woke at dawn. I showered, dressed in clothes that made me feel sharp, and drove to the bank at 11:40 a.m. I parked across the street, engine off, hands steady on the wheel. At 11:56, Cole's car pulled up. Grey coat, gloves, Mara beside him, folder in hand. I called Pilar. He's there. Now. We're ready. I watched them walk through the glass doors, confident, unhurried. They thought they'd already won. I waited 60 seconds. Then I followed them inside. The morning after I found the loan documents, I didn't sleep. I sat in that motel room with papers spread across the bed like puzzle pieces, trying to see the full picture of what they'd built while I wasn't looking. Harper arrived at 7 with coffee and a leather briefcase that looked like it meant business. Legal consults at 9, she said, handing me a cup. Attorney's name is Miranda Voss. She specializes in marital fraud and asset recovery. I've worked with her before. She doesn't lose. I took the coffee, hands wrapped around the warmth. What do I need to bring? Everything. Bank statements, forged signatures, loan documents, text records if you have them. The more evidence, the faster we move. We drove to Miranda's office in silence, downtown Ridgefield where the building still had that old brick charm. Her office was on the 3rd floor, windows overlooking the square. She stood when we entered, tall, sharp-eyed, dressed in charcoal gray. Mrs. Harrow, she said, extending a hand. Harper's told me the basics. Let's see what we're working with. I laid it all out. Every document, every screenshot, every timeline discrepancy. She didn't interrupt, just took notes in precise shorthand, occasionally tapping her pen against the pad. When I finished, she leaned back. This isn't amateur hour. Whoever planned this new banking systems, signature verification delays, and timing windows. The loan especially, that's sophisticated fraud. Can we stop them? We already have, partially, but now we need to make it permanent. I'll file for emergency asset protection, restraining orders on joint accounts, and fraud affidavits with the county clerk. That's step 1. What's step 2? Criminal charges. But that depends on how much you want to push. I thought of Noah asking if we were poor. I thought of Cole laughing in the garage. I thought of Mara's smug smile as she walked into that bank. I want to push all the way, I said. Miranda smiled, not warm, but satisfied. Good. Then we move fast. By noon, we'd filed preliminary injunctions at the courthouse. By 2, Harper had coordinated with Pilar to flag every account tied to my name, my business, and my credit. By 4, I was sitting in a print shop watching page after page of evidence roll out, timestamps, address changes, login anomalies, forged signatures. It felt like building a fortress out of paper. That evening, I returned to the motel. The room smelled like stale coffee and nerves. I stood at the window, blinds half closed, watching the bank across the street. Lights still on inside, tellers closing out registers, security walking the perimeter. Tomorrow, that building would become a trap. I rehearsed the line in my head, the one Miranda told me to use. If he's authorized, let him prove it. Check the updated signature card. Simple. Direct. Impossible to deflect. Harper texted, Pilar confirmed. Supervisor will be on site. 11:56. Don't be early. I replied, I won't. But I didn't sleep that night. I lay on top of the covers, fully dressed, staring at the ceiling, feeling time move in slow heartbeats. At 11:30 a.m. Monday, I was already in my car, parked with a clear view of the entrance. At 11:52, my phone buzzed. Harper, you ready? Me, yes. At 11:56, a grey coat appeared in the glass reflection across the street. Cole, right on time. I didn't move immediately. I watched him through the windshield, tracing his steps as he crossed the parking lot with Mara at his side. She carried a leather folder, expensive looking, the kind people use when they want to appear legitimate. They moved like they owned the moment. Confident, unhurried. My hands tightened on the steering wheel. At 11:58, I stepped out of the car. The air was cold, sharp against my face. I pulled my coat tighter and walked across the street, each step deliberate, measured. My heart hammered, but my breathing stayed even. Through the glass doors, I saw them at the counter. Cole was speaking to a teller, gesturing with easy familiarity. Mara stood beside him, folder open, pointing at something inside. I pushed through the doors. The lobby was quiet, hushed in that particular way banks always are, like everyone's trying not to disturb the money. A few customers sat in chairs along the wall. One man typed on his phone. An older woman filled out a deposit slip. Nobody noticed me yet. Cole's voice carried. Already confirmed with my wife. The authorization's in the file. The teller nodded, typing something. Let me just pull up the account details, Mr. Harrow. That's when Pilar appeared from the back office. She didn't look at me, but I saw the slight nod. I see you. She approached the counter, her expression neutral. Mr. Harrow, I'll need to verify a few things before we proceed. Cole smiled. Of course, whatever you need. Pilar glanced at her screen, then back at him. Can you confirm the authorization method? Was this submitted digitally or in person? In person, he said smoothly. Last week. My wife signed off before her trip. Mara added, we have the documentation right here. She slid a paper across the counter. Pilar picked it up, studied it. Her face didn't change, but I saw her eyes narrow slightly. And Mrs. Harrow is currently out of state. Yes, Cole said. She left Friday. That's when I stepped forward. If he's authorized, I said, my voice cutting through the quiet. Let him prove it. Check the updated signature card. The room shifted. Cole's head whipped around, his face draining of color. Mara's folder slipped slightly in her hands. Pilar looked at me, then back at Cole. Mrs. Harrow, I wasn't aware you'd returned. I didn't leave, I said. I rescheduled. The teller behind the counter glanced nervously between us. A supervisor appeared from the side office. Older man, grey hair, name tag reading Gerald Mance, branch manager. Is there a problem? He asked. Pilar handed him the paper Mara had provided. Mr. Harrow is attempting a withdrawal under joint authorization. Mrs. Harrow is requesting verification of the signature card. Giles studied the document, then looked at his screen. His fingers moved across the keyboard. The silence stretched. 10 seconds. 20. I heard someone cough. Heard the hum of the fluorescent lights overhead. Finally, Gerald spoke. Your system shows. What? Exactly. Pilar leaned closer to her screen. System now shows Mrs. Harrow as primary authority. Joint access was revoked Friday at 6:47 p.m. Cole's jaw tightened. That's not possible. We signed the updated agreement. We didn't sign anything, I said. My voice stayed calm, but there was steel underneath. You forged my signature. Mara stepped back slightly, her professional mask cracking. This is a misunderstanding. Cole said. I don't care what Cole said. I turned to Gerald. Pull the original signature card. Compare it to the one they submitted. Gerald nodded to Pilar. She disappeared into the back office. The seconds ticked by. Cole shifted his weight, glanced toward the door. Mara's fingers tightened on her folder. You don't understand, Cole said quietly. This is business. We were restructuring. Restructuring, I repeated. Is that what you call stealing $65,000 while I'm supposed to be 600 miles away? A woman in the waiting area looked up sharply. The man on his phone paused mid-scroll. Pilar retained, holding 2 documents side by side. She laid them on the counter in front of Gerald. He studied them. His expression shifted, subtle, but unmistakable. These signatures don't match, he said. Cole opened his mouth, but nothing came out. Gerald looked at me. Mrs. Harrow, I'm going to need you to file a formal fraud report. I already have, I said. My attorney submitted it this morning. Gerald's gaze moved to Cole. Mr. Harrow, I'm going to have to ask you to step aside. Security will need to speak with you. A guard appeared from the side, calm, professional, hand resting near his radio. This isn't what it looks like, Cole said, his voice rising slightly. Lila, we can talk about this. Isn't it? I said. The next 20 minutes unfolded like a scene I'd rehearsed but never fully believed would happen. Cole and Mara were escorted to a private office near the back. Gerald asked me to wait in a separate room. Glass walls, uncomfortable chairs, the kind of space designed to make you feel exposed. Harper arrived within minutes, briefcase in hand, expression unreadable. She sat beside me, pulled out her tablet, and began documenting everything. You did good, she said quietly. Stay calm. Let them process. Miranda Voss arrived 10 minutes later, dressed in the same charcoal suit, moving with the kind of purpose that made people step aside. She didn't sit, just stood near the door, arms crossed, watching through the glass as investigators spoke with Cole in the adjacent room. They are already contradicting each other, she said. Mara's claiming ignorance. Cole's claiming authorization. Neither story holds. What happens now? I asked. Bank files their report. Police get involved if fraud is confirmed. We file civil charges regardless. She glanced at me. How are you holding up? I didn't answer immediately. I felt like I was watching myself from outside my body, present but detached, calm but hollow. I'm here, I said finally. That's enough for now. Harper's phone buzzed. She glanced at it, then showed me the screen. A message from one of her contacts. Pattern matches 2 other cases. Same M.O. Maralane's name attached to both. I stayed at the words. She's done this before. Looks like it, Harper said. Different men, same structure. Real estate connections, joint accounts, forged signatures. She moves money, disappears, resurfaces somewhere else. And Cole? Harper's expression softened slightly. Probably her easiest mark. Access to your accounts, your trust, your name. I thought about the man I married, the one who built tree houses and held my hand during storms. That man felt like someone I'd invented, a fiction I'd clung to because the truth was too ugly to face. How long before we know the full damage? I asked. Days, Miranda said. Maybe a week. But we've frozen everything. She can't move what's already locked. Through the glass, I saw Cole stand, gesturing sharply. His voice was muffled, but I caught fragments. Never meant to hate anyone, just business. Mara sat silent, arms crossed, face unreadable. Giles emerged from the office, walking directly toward us. Mrs. Harrow, we've confirmed unauthorized access on 3 accounts. Total attempted withdrawal, $82,000. My breath caught. 82. The original 6 to 5, plus a secondary transfer flagged this morning. It was set to process at noon. 15 minutes ago. If I had been 600 miles away, it would have been gone. We've reversed all pending transactions, Gerald continued. Your accounts are secure, but we'll need formal statements from you and your legal team. Miranda stepped forward. We'll coordinate with your fraud department. I assume you're filing a suspicious activity report. Already submitted, Gerald said. Harper leaned closer to me. You stopped it, Lila. They thought they had 3 days. They had 3 minutes. Security escorted Cole and Mara out through a side exit. I didn't watch them leave. I stayed seated, hands folded in my lap, staring at the table in front of me. Miranda sat across from me. The hard part's over. Now comes the paperwork. That's the hard part, I said, half laughing. For some people. She pulled out a folder. We'll file for asset recovery, restitution, and damages. If the criminal case moves forward, that strengthens our position. Either way, you're protected. What about Noah? I asked quietly. How do I explain this to him? Harper reached over, squeezed my hand. You tell him the truth. That you protected both of you. That's what matters. I nodded, but I didn't feel relief. I felt exhausted, hollowed out, like I'd been holding my breath for weeks and finally let it go, but now I didn't know how to breathe normally again. Outside, the sun was starting to dip. Golden light slanted through the windows, casting long shadows across the floor. My phone buzzed. A text from my neighbor. Noah's asking when you're coming home. Should I tell him soon? I typed back, tell him I'm on my way. Because I was. Not to the home Cole and I had shared, but to the one Noah and I would build, quietly, carefully, without the weight of lies we didn't ask to carry. I stood, gathering my things. Harper and Miranda followed. As we walked toward the exit, Pilar appeared one last time. She handed me a sealed envelope. Your updated account summary. Everything's flagged and secured. Thank you, I said. She nodded. You were smart. Most people wait too long. I thought about that as we stepped outside into the cold air. Most people wait too long. They trust until trust becomes a weapon. They hope until hope becomes a trap. But I'd listened to a whisper, and that whisper had saved everything. 3 days after the bank, I sat in a windowless conference room at the county courthouse, fluorescent lights buzzing overhead like trapped insects. Across the table sat a detective named Marissa Chen, mid-40s, sharp eyes, the kind of person who'd heard every excuse and believed none of them. She had a recording device between us, red light blinking. Walk me through the timeline again, she said. From the moment you became aware. I told her about Noah's whisper, about the midnight notification, about the forged signatures and the scheduled withdrawals. My voice stayed even, factual, the way Harper had coached me. Don't perform emotion. Just state facts. Detective Chen took notes, occasionally pausing the recording to clarify details. And you never confronted your husband directly before the bank incident? No. Why not? Because I needed proof, I said. If I'd confronted him, he would have covered his tracks. Or Weiss accelerated the plan. She nodded slowly. Smart. Most victims tip their hand too early. Victims. The word sat heavy between us. What happens now? I asked. We've opened a full investigation. Your husband and Marlene are both being questioned separately. We've also subpoenaed their phone records, email accounts, and financial transactions going back 6 months. How long does that take? Weeks? Usually. But given the evidence you've already provided, she tapped the folder in front of her. We're moving faster than normal. Miranda entered then, carrying another briefcase. She set it on the table with a soft thud. Additional documentation. Bank statements, login records, and affidavits from 2 other women Mara Lane defrauded in the past 18 months. Detective Chen's eyebrows lifted. 2 others. Different cities. Same pattern. Real estate connections, romantic involvement with married men, forged financial documents. One lost 40,000. The other lost everything. House, savings, custody of her kids. My stomach twisted. She took someone's kids. Indirectly, Miranda said. The financial collapse triggered a custody battle. The father used it as evidence of instability. I thought of Noah. How close we'd come to that same cliff. We're filing for emergency protective custody, Miranda continued, looking at me. Just as a precaution. If Cole tries to claim parental rights during the investigation. He won't get near him, I said, voice hard. Legally, he still can. Unless we establish a pattern of endangerment. He used our son to gather information, I said. Noah overheard conversations he shouldn't have been exposed to. That's endangerment. Detective Chen looked up. Did your son witness any exchanges of money? Any meetings with Mara Lane? I thought back. He mentioned seeing her at the house once. Cole said it was a business meeting. When? About 3 weeks ago. Saturday afternoon. Chen made a note. We'll need to interview him. Gently. Child Services will handle it. The thought of Noah being questioned made my chest tighten. But I nodded. Whatever it takes. Miranda closed her briefcase. We've also filed provisional freezes on all joint assets and initiated divorce proceedings under fraud grounds. That means accelerated timelines, no mandatory waiting period. How soon? If everything holds. 60 days. 60 days to unravel 10 years. Later that afternoon, I met Cole for the first and only time after the bank. It wasn't planned. Miranda had arranged a supervised exchange so I could retrieve personal items from the house. He was waiting in the driveway when I arrived, arms crossed, face drawn. He looked smaller somehow, like the weight of exposure had physically shrunk him. Lila, he said as I approached. We need to talk. We don't, I said, moving past him toward the door. He followed. You don't understand what happened. Mara, she manipulated everything. I didn't know. I stopped, turned. You didn't know? You made phone calls. You signed documents. You scheduled withdrawals for the exact day I'd be gone. She told me you'd agreed. Don't, I said, voice sharp. Don't insult me by pretending you're a victim. His face flushed. I made mistakes, but I never wanted to hurt you. You almost made our son your accomplice. The words landed like a physical blow. He stepped back, mouth opening, closing. Noah, he doesn't understand. He understood enough to warn me. A 10-year-old had more integrity than you. Silence stretched between us, cold and absolute. Finally, he said quietly, I loved you. Loved, I repeated. Past tense. At least you're honest about something. I walked into the house, gathered what I needed, documents, photos, Noah's favorite blanket, and left without another word. As I drove away, I saw him standing in the driveway, watching me go. He looked lost, broken, but I didn't feel sorry for him. Because if he'd been Mara's pawn, why did the paperwork plan our disappearance? The following week became a blur of logistics and legal maneuvers. Harper helped me establish a new trust, something called an irrevocable living trust, where all my remaining assets were transferred and protected from any future claims. It was technical, dense with legal language, but the call was simple. Nobody could touch what was mine. Not Cole, not Mara, not anyone. Think of it like a vault, Harper explained as we sat in her office. Once assets are inside, they're separate from marital property. Even if Cole tries to claim joint ownership later, this protects you. Can he challenge it? He can try, but given the fraud evidence, no judge will side with him. I signed the paperwork, watched her notarize each page. It felt surreal, rewriting my financial identity in neat, legal boxes. Next came account segregation. Every joint account was closed. Every credit card, every loan, every shared utility. I opened new accounts under my name only, changed banks entirely, set up alerts on everything. Miranda walked me through emergency custody strategy over coffee at a quiet cafe. We're filing for temporary sole custody pending the criminal investigation. Cole can request supervised visitation, but given Noah's testimony. He testified. My stomach dropped. Informally, Child Services spoke with him yesterday. He was very clear about what he overheard. I thought of Noah sitting in some sterile office, telling strangers about his father's phone calls. My heart ached for him. How did he seem? I asked. Calm. Honest. He asked if you were okay. Tears stung my eyes. I need to see him. You will. But for now, the less disruption, the better. Let the process work. I nodded, swallowing hard. That evening, I recorded a video for my channel, something I hadn't done in weeks. I kept it vague, didn't name names, just talked about resilience and listening to instincts and protecting what matters. The comments flooded in. You're so strong. Thank you for sharing. This helped me leave. I didn't feel strong. I felt like I was assembling myself piece by piece, hoping the glue would hold. A few days later, Cole's attorney reached out. He wanted mediation. He wanted to settle amicably. Miranda's response was cold and swift. There's nothing to mediate. Your client committed fraud. We'll see him in court. But that night, Cole called my phone. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. Lila, he said, voice rough. Please, just listen. I'm listening. I know what this looks like. But Mara, she trapped me. She said we were restructuring the business. She said you'd signed off. I didn't know. You didn't ask, I said. You didn't verify. You just took her word because it was easier than facing what you were doing. Silence. I was weak, he said finally. I got caught up in something I couldn't control. You had choices, Cole. Every step of the way, you had choices. You chose her. You chose the money. You chose to lie. I didn't choose to hurt you. Yes, you did. The moment you signed my name without asking. The moment you scheduled that withdrawal. Those were choices. He was quiet for a long time. Then, if I could go back. You can't. I hung up. My hands were shaking, but I felt lighter, like I'd finally said the things I needed to say. The next morning, Pilar called. Mrs. Harrow, there's something you need to see. Can you come to the bank? I arrived within the hour. She led me to a small office, closed the door, and handed me a sealed envelope. This was in our records, she said, filed with the original transfer agreement. I only just found it. I opened the envelope carefully. Inside was a single sheet of paper, a typed transfer agreement, post-dated for 3 weeks after the scheduled withdrawal. But in the margin, in handwriting I didn't recognize, was a note settling accounts before the move abroad. Confirm wire instructions by Friday. My blood ran cold. Move abroad, I said. Pilar nodded grimly. We pulled email records attached to Mara Lane's business account. She'd been researching property in Costa Rica. No extradition treaty. I stared at the note, the words blurring. They weren't just stealing. They were planning to leave. Looks like it. I thought of Noah. Thought of what would have happened if I'd been 600 miles away when this went through. Would Cole have taken him? Left me with nothing. No money. No access. No way to fight back? How close were we? I asked quietly. Pilar's expression was somber. If you hadn't acted when you did? Very close. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept staring at the note, reading it over and over. Settling accounts before the move abroad. Not if they moved. Before they moved. Like it was already decided. Already planned. I called Harper at 11 p.m. She answered on the second ring, voice elate. What's wrong? They were leaving the country. Silence. Then, how do you know? I told her about the note, the Costa Rica research, the wire instructions. Jesus, she breathed. Lila, this isn't just fraud. This is conspiracy to defraud and flee. What does that mean legally? It means federal charges. It means they can't plead this down to a misdemeanor. It means prison time. I should have felt relief. Instead, I felt numb. Would they have taken Noah? I asked. Harper hesitated. Hard to say. Cole might have tried to claim custody after you were financially destroyed. Or he might have just disappeared. The thought made me sick. My son, caught in the middle of something he didn't understand, torn between a mother who had nothing and a father who'd stolen everything. I need to see him, I said. Tomorrow, Harper promised. I'll coordinate with child services. The next afternoon, I met Noah at a supervised visitation center, neutral space, soft furniture, toys in the corner. He ran to me the moment I walked in, wrapping his arms around my waist. Mommy, he said, voice muffled against my coat. Are you okay? I knelt down, holding his face in my hands. I'm okay, baby. Are you? He nodded, but his eyes were red. They asked me lots of questions. About Daddy and the lady. I know. You did so good, Noah. You told the truth. Is Daddy in trouble? I paused, choosing my words carefully. Daddy made some bad choices, and now he has to fix them. Will he go to jail? Maybe. I don't know yet. He looked down, fingers twisting together. I don't want him to go to jail, but I don't want him to hurt you either. My heart broke. You don't have to choose, sweetheart. You're allowed to love him and still be angry about what he did. He nodded slowly. Then, can we go home soon? I miss my room. Soon, I promised. Very soon. We spent the rest of the hour drawing pictures and talking about school. He told me about a project on volcanoes. I told him about a new recipe I wanted to try. We pretended, for a little while, that everything was normal. When it was time to leave, he hugged me tight. I love you, Mommy. I love you too, baby. So much. As I drove away, I thought about how close we'd come to losing everything. Not just money, not just stability, but each other. Cole and Mara had planned our disappearance. They'd scheduled it, coordinated it, written it down like it was just another business transaction. But they'd underestimated one thing, a 10-year-old boy who loved his mother enough to break the silence. That evening, I sat at my laptop and began writing. Not for the investigation, not for the lawyers, for myself. I wrote about the whisper, about the midnight notification, about standing in that bank and reclaiming what was mine. I wrote about fear and survival and the strange strength that comes from being backed into a corner. And I wrote about Noah, the boy who saved us both. When I finished, I read it back. It wasn't polished. It wasn't perfect. But it was true. I thought about posting it to my channel. Thought about all the people who might need to hear that intuition matters, that children see more than we think, that survival sometimes looks like cold calculation instead of warm hope. But not yet. First, we had to finish what we'd started. The investigation was ongoing. The trial date was set for 3 months out. Cole had hired a new attorney, someone expensive, someone who specialized in white-collar defense. But Miranda wasn't worried. "We have everything," she said during our last meeting. "Forged signatures, scheduled withdrawals, email evidence, witness testimony. They can't spin this. What if they try to settle? Then we'll consider it. But Lila," she leaned forward, "you hold all the cards now. Don't forget that." I nodded, but I wasn't thinking about cards or trials or legal strategies. I was thinking about the envelope, about the note, about how close we'd come to never being found. And I was thinking about the woman I'd been 3 months ago, the one who trusted too easily, who explained away red flags, who thought love meant overlooking betrayal. That woman was gone. In her place was someone harder, sharper, someone who'd learned that survival isn't pretty or poetic. It's cold-eyed and strategic. It's listening when a child whispers. It's acting when everyone else hesitates. It's walking into a bank at 11:56 and saying, "Prove it." That night, as I lay in bed, my phone buzzed. A text from Harper. Costa Rica property was under Mara's name. Purchase agreement signed 2 weeks ago. Cole listed as co-owner. I stared at the message. They'd already bought it. Already planned the life they'd build with my money, in my name, while I grieved my mother 600 miles away. I replied, "Add it to the file." Then I turned off my phone, closed my eyes, and let the quiet settle around me. Tomorrow, we'd keep building the case. Tomorrow, we'd keep separating the lifelines. But tonight, I let myself feel something I hadn't felt in months. Safe. Not because the danger was over, but because I'd learned how to see it coming. 6 months after the bank, I stood in a community center basement on the east side of town, watching 20 women settle into folding chairs. They didn't know who I was. I'd introduced myself only as Elle, and the coordinator, a kind-eyed therapist named Ruth, had promised complete anonymity. This was the 3rd workshop I'd attended, not as a participant, as a quiet advocate, someone who sat in the back, listened to stories that echoed my own, and occasionally offered practical advice when asked. "My husband handles all the money," one woman said, voice trembling. "I don't even know our account passwords." I spoke before I could stop myself. "Get them. Tonight. Write them down. Take pictures of every statement you can find." She looked at me, eyes wide. "But he'll know. He'll know you're protecting yourself. That's not a crime. That's survival." Ruth nodded approvingly. Financial literacy isn't just about budgets. It's about access. If you can't see the money, you can't protect it. Another woman raised a hand. "What if he gets angry? What if it makes things worse?" I thought about Cole's face in the bank, about the moment his confidence cracked. "It might," I said honestly, "but staying blind doesn't keep you safe. It just keeps you vulnerable." The room was quiet for a moment. Then someone else spoke. "I found a credit card I didn't open. In my name. Max balance." "Document it," I said. "Screenshot everything. File a fraud report immediately. Don't wait." "But we're married." "That doesn't give him the right to steal your identity." Ruth added gently, "Financial abuse is still abuse. The law recognizes that now." After the session, a younger woman, maybe mid-20s, approached me. "Can I ask you something?" "Of course." "How did you know? Like, what was the moment you couldn't ignore anymore?" I thought about Noah's whisper, about the midnight notification, about standing in that kitchen, holding my breath. "My son told me something he shouldn't have known," I said, and instead of explaining it away, I listened. "What did he say?" I hesitated. Then, that his father was planning to take everything the moment I left town. Her eyes filled with tears. My daughter said something similar last week, about her dad and some woman, but I thought she misunderstood. Maybe she did, I said carefully. Or maybe she's seeing what you're trying not to see. She nodded slowly, wiping her eyes. What do I do? Start with passwords, then bank statements. Look for anything that doesn't match your memory, charges you don't recognize, accounts you didn't open, addresses that aren't yours. And then you call someone like Ruth, or a lawyer, or a financial investigator. You build evidence before you build confrontation. She hugged me suddenly, fiercely. Thank you. I hugged her back, feeling the weight of what she was about to face. The sleepless nights, the fear, the cold calculation required to protect yourself from someone you love. You're going to be okay, I whispered. It won't feel like it, but you will. Driving home that night, I thought about how strange it was, becoming someone other women turned to for guidance. I didn't feel wise. I felt scarred. But maybe that was the same thing sometimes. At home, Noah was waiting, homework spread across the kitchen table. He looked up when I entered, smiled. How was your meeting? Good, I said. How was school? Fine. We're doing fractions. I sat beside him, looking at his worksheet. He'd gotten most of them right. Smart kid. Too smart for his own good sometimes. Hey, Mom, he said after a moment. Yeah, baby. Did we fix the problem? I set down the pencil I'd been holding. The question was simple, but the answer wasn't. Yes, I said. We did. So Daddy can't take our house anymore. No, he can't. And the lady, Mara, she's gone. She can't hurt us. He nodded, satisfied, then went back to his fractions. I watched him wake, pencil moving carefully across the page, and felt something settle in my chest. Not relief exactly, more like resolution. We'd fixed the problem, but the lesson remained. That night, I started drafting a simple guide, something I could share anonymously online. Just basic safeguards, written in plain language. Things like, know all your passwords, change them if you don't, check your credit report quarterly, dispute anything unfamiliar, set up alerts for every account, know when money moves, keep copies of everything, digital and physical, trust your instincts. If something feels wrong, investigate. I didn't publish it right away. I wanted Miranda to review it first, make sure nothing could be used against me legally. But I knew eventually I'd share it. Because if my story could help even one person avoid what I'd been through, it was worth the exposure. The trial had been postponed twice, first for additional evidence gathering, then for Cole's attorney requesting more time. It was scheduled now for early January. Miranda said that was actually good for us. More time means more documentation, more patterns, more proof. Mara had tried to flee. She'd been stopped at the airport 3 weeks after the bank incident, ticket to San Jose in hand. Federal marshals detained her, and she'd been in custody ever since, bail denied due to flight risk. Cole was out on bail, living with his brother 2 towns over. He'd tried to contact Noah twice, once through a card, once through a third-party message. Both times, I'd blocked it. The custody arrangement was clear. No unsupervised contact until after the trial. Harper told me he was broke. The legal fees had drained what little he had left. His business had collapsed once word got out. Contractors wouldn't work with him. Clients disappeared. I didn't feel sorry for him, but I didn't feel vindicated either. Just tired. One evening in late November, Noah and I drove past the bank. It was unintentional, just the route home from the grocery store. But as we passed, I found myself slowing down. The glass doors, the parking lot, the exact spot where I'd parked that Monday morning, heart pounding, hand steady. That's where you went, right? Noah said, when you stopped Daddy. Yeah, I said, that's way. Were you scared? I thought about it. Yes. But I was angrier than I was scared. Is that good? Sometimes. Anger can make you clear. It can help you see what needs to be done. He nodded thoughtfully. I was scared when I told you. I reached over, squeezed his hand. That was the bravest thing you've ever done. Really? Really. You saved us, Noah. Don't ever forget that. He smiled, small, shy, then looked out the window as we drove away. Every December now, I think I'll drive past that bank, not out of trauma or obsession, but as a reminder, a marker. The woman in the car that Monday morning is still there, in a way, still watching the doors, still waiting for the moment to move. She's part of me now, the sharp, calculating part, the part that doesn't trust easily, the part that checks passwords and credit reports and knows exactly where every dollar goes. I don't love her, but I respect her, because she's the reason we're still here. The first snow fell on a Tuesday morning in December, the kind that came soft and airy, dusting the world in quiet white. I stood in the kitchen, the same kitchen where everything had started, watching flakes drift past the window. The suitcase that had once sat open on the counter was now shelved in the basement, gathering dust. My mother had recovered, slowly but steadily, and I'd visited her twice since everything happened. She knew the basics, though I'd spared her the details. Some things mothers don't need to carry. The kitchen table was steady now. No tension humming beneath the surface. No arguments brewing. Just Noah's cereal bowl, my coffee mug, and winter light streaming through glass. It was almost normal. Almost. The trial was 3 weeks away. Miranda had prepared me for what to expect. The questions, the cross-examination, the way Cole's attorney would try to paint me as controlling or paranoid. They'll try to make you the villain, she'd said. Stay calm. Stick to facts. Let the evidence speak. I wasn't worried. The evidence was overwhelming. Forged signatures, scheduled withdrawals, email trails, witness testimony from 2 other victims. The Costa Rica property deed with Cole's name beside Mara's. Harper had even uncovered a burner phone, purchased under a fake name, used exclusively for communications between Cole and Mara. Messages discussing timelines, account access, and what they'd do once it's done. The prosecution was calling it premeditated fraud with conspiracy to flee. 15 years minimum if convicted on all counts. Cole's attorney was pushing for a plea deal. Miranda had forwarded me the offer, reduced charges in exchange for full restitution and a public admission of guilt. What do you think? She'd asked. I'd thought about it for days. Thought about dragging Noah through a trial. Thought about sitting across from Cole in a courtroom, reliving every betrayal in front of strangers. But I also thought about the other women Mara had hurt, about the pattern that would continue if she wasn't stopped. No deal, I'd said. We go to trial. Miranda had smiled. Good. Now, standing in the kitchen with snow falling outside, I felt something I hadn't felt in months. Peace. Not the fragile kind that shatters at the first sign of trouble. The hard-earned kind. The kind built on foundations you've tested yourself. Noah appeared in the doorway, still in pajamas, hair sticking up. It's snowing. I see that. Can we build a snowman later? If there's enough, I said. We'll see. He padded over, leaned against me. Mom. Yeah, baby. Are you happy now? The question caught me off guard. I looked down at him, his serious eyes, his hopeful expression. I'm getting there, I said honestly. Are you? He nodded. I like it when it's quiet, when nobody's yelling. My heart ached. Me too. He smiled, then grabbed his cereal and headed toward the living room. I stayed in the kitchen, sipping my coffee, watching the snow accumulate on the windowsill. I thought about the woman I'd been a year ago, the one who ignored red flags, who explained away inconsistencies, who believed love meant overlooking lies. She felt like a stranger now. Betrayal hadn't ruined me. It had forged something new. Something sharper, more aware, less willing to accept explanations that didn't match evidence. I didn't hate Cole anymore. I didn't feel anything toward him, really. He was just someone I used to know. Someone who'd made choices I couldn't forgive but no longer needed to fight. The promise I'd made to Noah, that would be okay, that nobody could take our home, still stood. And I had kept it, not through hope or faith or waiting for things to get better, but through action. Through cold-eyed strategy and refusing to look away from uncomfortable truths. My phone buzzed on the counter. A text from Ruth, the workshop coordinator. * next session is January 10th. Can you make it? * Me. * I'll be there. * Ruth. * you're helping more people than you know. I didn't reply. Just set the phone down and returned to the window. The snow was falling heavier now, covering the driveway, the yard, the street beyond. It made everything look clean, new, like the world was resetting. But I knew better. Snow melted, spring came, and underneath, everything you'd buried stayed exactly where you'd left it. The difference was whether you acknowledged it or pretended it wasn't there. I'd spent too long pretending. Around noon, the mail arrived. I heard the truck, heard the mailbox clang shut. Noah was upstairs in his room, video chatting with a friend from school. I pulled on a coat and walked down the driveway, boots crunching in fresh snow. The mailbox was stuffed, catalogs, bills, a few holiday cards. I pulled everything out, sorted through it as I walked back toward the house. Then I stopped. At the bottom of the stack was an envelope. Cream-colored, expensive paper. No return address. My name and address were handwritten in script I didn't recognize. Not Cole's. Not Mara's. I turned it over. The seal was embossed with initials. *V.K. My stomach tightened. I opened it carefully, pulling out a single card. Inside, in the same elegant script, Mrs. Harrow, we need to talk. Not about the past. About what comes next. The account your husband accessed wasn't the only one. Call me. V. Kane *. Below the message was a phone number. Nothing else. I stood there in the snow, heart pounding, staring at the words. The account your husband accessed wasn't the only one. I walked back inside, closed the door, and leaned against it. Noah called from upstairs. Mom, can Jake come over tomorrow? Yeah, baby, I said, voice steady even though my hands weren't. That's fine. I looked at the card again, read it twice more. Then I pulled out my phone and called Harper. She answered immediately. What's wrong? I just got a letter, I said, from someone named V. Kane. Says Cole accessed more than one account. Says we need to talk. Silence. Then, don't call that number. Forward me a picture of the card. I'll run it. Who is V. Kane? I don't know yet. But if they know about other accounts. She paused. Lila, this might be bigger than we thought. I hung up, photographed the card, sent it to Harper. Then I walked to the window and looked out at the snow, at the quiet street, at the life I'd fought so hard to protect. The woman I'd been 3 months ago would have panicked, would have called the number immediately, desperate for answers. But the woman I was now knew better. I waited, because the notice that arrived that morning wasn't addressed to me by accident. Someone wanted my attention. And I'd learned the hard way, when someone wants your attention, it's usually because they want something else too. Outside, the snow kept falling. Soft, relentless, covering everything in white. But underneath, the ground was still frozen. And I was still watching the doors. If this story resonated with you, if you felt Lila's fear, her anger, or her quiet strength, subscribe so you don't miss what happens next. We're just getting started. Drop a comment below and tell me, would you have confronted Cole immediately, or would you have stayed silent like Lila did? I read every single one, and your insights shape how these stories unfold. And if you know someone who needs to hear this, someone who's ignoring whispers they shouldn't ignore, share this video. Sometimes the story someone else needs is the one that saves them. Hit that notification bell because V. Kane's letter just changed everything. And trust me, you won't want to miss what comes next.